Just the two of us.
We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. You and I. That was really good. You caught me off guard there, Paul.
I was thinking how else I could open it.
That was really good.
And
that was really good.
You kept saying it is time for us to do an episode, just the two of us.
I love that.
And I thought of Dr. Evil and Mini-Me. From Austin Powers, right? I don't know who's who.
That's up to the listeners to decide.
It is up to listeners to decide. Maybe we can get a vote going.
Simply by shape, it would be yourself as Dr. Evil, and
I'd be Mini-Me.
No, you'd be Dr. Evil.
Oh, I think you should, Max, put in a picture of Dr. Evil and Mini-Me when we open up, please, and that should be one of the clips.
I'm more of a
Austin Powers
father type lad.
Oh, Dad, wasn't there
to take me to the fair.
Right. See, we can probably do movie clips all day.
I'm a big fan. I just rewatched all three of them, I think, last week.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Mike Myers.
And I watched them backwards. So
Okay.
Gold Member.
Okay.
Then I can't remember if it's International Man of Mystery.
Okay.
Or the other one, but
Okay.
I watched them backwards.
And there was Beyonce in part 3.
That's Gold Member.
Part 2 was the girl that was in Hangover.
Who?
Yeah. I can't remember her name right now. She was the blonde from Hangover. And then part 1 was the English
Oh,
girl.
yeah, that's right.
I can't remember any of their names. But yes.
That's right. Mrs. Kensington.
That's right. Good movies.
And Miss
Good flicks.
Kensington.
Mike Myers, great guy.
Really good. Yeah.
Cat in the Hat too.
Yeah.
So it's just the two of us.
Yeah.
Reach out to a few people that have been saying they want to hear more about what we've been doing, our growth the last 5 years, how we've continued to develop and succeed in the industry. And it's not something that we like talking about because we're always asking about other stories. But I think people want to hear about top producing and how we remain nimble. Every year's been different.
Yeah. I just want to make it clear that I don't know what you're about to ask, and I don't think you know what I'm about to ask.
I have no idea what you're going to ask. I'm pretty worried about that.
And I have nothing here.
I just took down some ideas. I just took down some questions and some thoughts.
Yeah. So I just think that, there's always conversation around it being a good market, bad market, unknown market. I just think that there's opportunity in everything. Yeah. Whether it's good, bad, ugly, sideways, there's always deals to be had. There's always business to be done. And each type of market, whichever way you perceive it, has opportunity. So I don't subscribe to the conversation of, this is not a great time to be in mortgages, or this is an amazing time to be in mortgages, or we have no idea what's going to happen in mortgages or in the world or in politics or, geopolitical movements and things of that nature. So I think that if I want an overarching sort of thesis is that there's it's always a good time and there's always deals to be had and there's no excuses.
I like that.
Play like a champion.
All right. I just thought of
Rule 72.
Rule 72.
Where's that from?
Dip, dodge, and duck.
That's a good one too.
All right. So let's open up with this segment.
Okay.
We'll call it evolution. So me and you are both going to answer these 3 questions. Okay. I'll answer from a kind of
bird's eye, like 30,000.
Bird's eye, right?
Yeah,
and you're gonna answer from in the weeds.
Sure.
All right. So I'll start with you. Question 1.
Go ahead.
Over the last 5 years since we've entered, what have you got wrong, and what have you got right?
Okay.
And I'll answer from like a leadership or recruiting and that, and you answer from building like an incredible book and being a top performer, as well as obviously you have a ton of leadership and all that other stuff because you've been growing a team and you play a big part in the overarching Ontario brokerage as well.
Okay, what have I done right? So,
and let's not make it like 18 minutes.
No, 100%. That's why this is where like the preparation.
What have we got wrong?
This is where.
What have we got right?
But, this is where the preparation could really come into play. But I like the rawness of like.
That's what you want to do it because you're gonna hit me up first too. Yeah.
I just like with the first thing that comes to mind, and then kind of I don't even have to refine it. So, I would say something that I got right would be my work ethic. Okay. It's something that I'm really proud of and didn't necessarily even realize how effective it is, until I started receiving all kinds of accolades in the industry and things of that nature. And I think that I always set goals, and those goals are always evolving. And with those goals, it's always pushed me to do better and better, and don't place no limits around myself, because some folks would say to themselves, okay, the second I hit 50 million or whatever the case, whatever their goal is, 250,000 in income, kind of start to coast. And I feel like I'm always trying to continuously level up. I think that's something that I've done very right. An additional thing that I think I've done very right is really immerse myself into the role, like learn as much as I humanly can about the different banks that we work with, the industry, who are the movers and shakers, from a regulatory capacity, from a bank capacity, from who are top brokers, and kind of just understand what they're doing right, and try to pick bits and pieces and put it into my own practice. And people are pretty open in the industry, which is really cool. And I don't know if everybody thinks that way. Some things that I didn't get right. That's a tough one for me, because I think the one thing that comes to mind right away is that although there's a customer at the end of the transaction, which is super duper important, I think it's really important to understand that the people along the way are also super important, because these are the folks you deal with on a day-to-day basis. And pushing a deal, it's all about delivery, right? It's how do you approach a challenging situation? I like to come from the camp that nobody in the bank or in the compliance or in the law office or whomever is really trying to make things difficult. I just think that everybody's got a job to do. And I think the approach of how you build relationships with these people and how you manage the transaction is really important. And I think that I used to believe that I would get more with vinegar, and it worked. Like it worked. Things got done. But I just think for to think long term and for sustainability, you get more done with honey. So treat the people right. They'll treat you right back. They're people we deal with on an ongoing basis. So it's like the customer. Ultimately, there's a way to get to the end result for the customer while ensuring that people feel like you're not bulldozing over them effectively, and that's one thing that I've developed over time and continue to develop. And I think that's one area where I've really developed, and I think it comes with age and maturity. But that's certainly something that I think I started off with a different mindset than I have today.
I like that. For me, what I got wrong, I think at the beginning I came in thinking that whoever we worked with would be similar to when I was at the bank, and that everyone has to come together and there's going to be a solution every single time. We're on this side because of there being so many different lenders, and when they don't like a deal or if there's also a little bit more of less polish. And I think that was definitely something that when I came in, I thought that we would get to the end result the same way as we did at the bank, and it doesn't always end that way. From a managerial perspective of appealing deals and when there's declines and there was a much higher success rate, which over time we've gotten there. But that was one piece I think from that I got wrong at the beginning. And I think a second one was at the beginning because the goal was to grow so fast, there was definitely some hiccups in the hiring, right? Taking on a lot of people and moving away a little bit from my vetting process, which I then quickly implemented. We talked about making sure there's the business plan, understanding that the fit's proper, the growth will come. However, at the beginning, I think coming in and when we were trying to build it from the ground up, the focus should have been more organically, which I then shifted pretty quickly as I look back. What I got right, or what we got right, I think was just two things mainly. One was the relationship piece. That's a bread and butter, and just building those relationships with every single lender and understanding there's so many out there. It's going to take time, but just focusing on relationships, it's a relationship business. And the second one was sticking to my strengths. I think in the beginning, I came in trying to understand everything on the broker side. There's so many more administration, there's so many more things to keep on top of that I really realized, let me stay in my lane, focus what I'm good on: recruiting, coaching, relationship management, appealing deals, getting more out of the team that's here, and kind of helping us grow the brand and stay out of the trying to get deals myself or try to broker. I have no book of business. That's just not my strength. And some of the other stuff that we're lucky enough to have people that help. And obviously, Janice focuses on the back end stuff, which is incredible. So those are two things that I got right and got wrong, I would say. So, all right. How's your mindset changed from year one?
That's a
If it has.
for sure. I think that if it hasn't, we have a serious problem on our hands.
Right.
So I think that everybody's mindset should always be evolving, and you should always be trying to get sharper and try to see, just like you mentioned in the last question, like where can you be better? What did you do? Where did you go wrong? Where did you go right? What are your strengths? That's a huge one, I think. So my mindset in the beginning was very much around that I have to suffer to be successful. Yeah. I have to struggle to be successful. And I think that's a mindset of a lot of people that are in business. Mm-hmm. And I learned that that's not true. And that's not the case. You actually don't have to suffer at all. And you can be extremely successful in whichever way that means to you. And I come to work every day with the fattest smile on my face, no matter what's going on. Everything's going to get dealt with. There's an opportunity to fix any problem out there. And the truth of the matter is that I really don't have to suffer. And I don't have to do, I don't have to be overworked all the time in order to be successful in anything. And that's a big piece for me that has kind of shifted.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think for me, the mindset from year one was knowledge. There was so much to learn, so many new people who had the keys. And not to say that I'm still not learning, because if you're not learning, you're not growing. But I think, to me, I look at knowledge as the foundation. So year one was really for me, and I look at things as a sports team as well. You come in, you start building the blocks. You start building what your identity wants to be as a company. And then you start, and you already have really a few solid pillars. And then we started building and bringing in those pieces to turn us into a championship roster. And so year one was more, how do we steer the ship in the right direction? And then year two was just layering on, year three, and then now we're hitting our stride. It's still just the tip of the iceberg. But to me, we have now developed an absolutely incredible team that is so enjoyable to come to work with every day. The mindset is just superb. And to see what everyone's doing and to see that they want to continue to grow year over year is simply incredible. But that's the mindset shift, was really build the proper foundation. Because the first 3 to 6 months, I was like, I had no idea what I was doing. It's such a different world coming from the bank for 15 years, especially now entrepreneurially running a business versus just leading a team. It's so multifaceted, right? So I think that's where the mindset changed for me. Behind the scenes, take us behind the scenes of a top brokerage. Maybe like one or two. What's happening behind the scenes when people are coming like that they don't see every day at the office, or just in general leading one of the top teams in the country.
So I'll talk about it from like a day-to-day mortgage origination capacity. I think there's one thing and one thing only that makes any group or individual agent successful, and that's process. Whether you have 1 deal, 10 deals, or 1,000 deals, if you don't have a process where each customer feels the same sort of cycle, you cannot be successful. You're always kind of scattered-brained. Your process needs to be written out. I am a huge operations guy. That's like my thing. It's always been my thing to just try to be more efficient with less bodies. Like, I find it very fascinating when we talk to a brokerage, and I'm comparing a brokerage to like an individual producer here. So a brokerage, doing, let's call it 500 deals a year with 10 underwriters, where we've seen it done with 2 underwriters, a lead, and some fulfillment. So efficiency to me is super important. and we can get into the process however you guys wish. But that is the single most important part of being a successful business owner, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like it. Behind the scenes of
Did you say I like it?
I like it.
No, you were going to say I love it, and then you pivoted to like. That's okay.
I
That's
think
fine.
so, but
You saw it.
I
You heard
also
that,
was
right?
mid-sentence.
Because I kind of like,
and then
I like the meds and meds.
I like it a lot. And then when you said it comes down to one thing, all I thought about was we're going to dance to one song and one song only. But anyways, I digress. Behind the scenes of a top brokerage, there's so many. Tell me.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, it's good.
I'll remember. I think
It's
I'll remember my spot.
It's all good. A top brokerage.
Okay,
Take us
so-
away, Paul.
So, so to me, there's a few things. Number one, we're not transactional.
Yeah.
Every broker here understands that we are here for the long haul, for the life cycle of the client, as well as their family, friends, future. That's number one of why I think is behind the scenes. Now, people might want to know, and this question go multiple ways. Is it the mentality? Is it what's happening behind closed doors? Obviously, there's coaching. Obviously, there's an understanding of how we level up. There's also the winning mentality of wanting to continue to rise, and we have top producers, we have a roadmap. But I think the other piece of what it's behind the scenes is the simple fact of that everybody here helps each other.
Yeah.
And anyone can go to anybody, and whether they're in person or call on the phone and say, hey, how did you do this or how did you do that? And within our group chat. And that's what's really happening behind the scenes is everybody wants to see each other do better.
And people are excited when people are leveling up. There's no animosity, there's no jealousy. There's this sense of community and involvement and happiness when folks are doing well, because it's a collective goal. Really, we're representing one brand. But if I can or may say something with respect to the brokerage piece, which is I think super behind the scenes, which I think is a huge reason of why we are quote unquote successful. I personally think we have a long way to go, but whatever. Number one, we have leadership that is designed in sort of three different pillars, and the most important pillar is yours, which is not booking any business and only focusing on broker development. So coaching, you need to step away from your business at least once a month. You need to take a 30,000 foot view of what's happening. Where are we deriving? And now you've kind of, and I'll let you speak to this piece, but you've devised a 12-month plan where each month we're talking about something else relevant to what's happening in your particular business, as well as what's happening, macroeconomically, right? Which is super important. Those two things together, are an opportunity to continue to develop more business. And that's why I think that year over year in a down market now, our brokerage has seen an increased volume and unit number. So that's number one. Number two, there is such an emphasis on culture here, love and respect and unity. There's this new fad going around the internet that companies aren't families, and I actually agree with that.
I actually saw that too.
I agree with that. We're not and again, I'm not going to get into it, but I think that what I'm trying to say here now is that people in this company are respectful to one another. That's right. They love one another. They want to see one another do better, and it's not one person. It stems from leadership. So I respect that. But everybody does their part collectively. And it's so evident. We're such a community here where you can ask anybody anything at any time and you'll get answers.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. So you brought up.
Was that 3 questions?
You always, there's no, that was 3 questions.
That was 3 okay.
But you also gave 3 answers.
Yeah, it's classic. It's classic.
Yeah. Like I thought you said it can't, one thing, but then it was like 3 pillars. It was good. It's a good answer.
Okay.
Do you want me to go over what each month was the coaching
you
for
tell
this
me
year?
what you got on your little sheet there.
No. When you said each month I devised the plan, should I tell we're already through March. You want me to tell them what the focus was, high level?
I think that it's important for people to understand that you need a coach. You need a mentor. You need somebody by your side with experience that can help develop you both personally and professionally. And I think that's something that you do a really, really good job at because, first of all, you coach pretty much the entire team. I think every single top producer in the brokerage requests coaching, in fact. This is something that you've brought over from your bank days, which is not, I don't think it's the most common thing in the broker space. I'm not really sure, but I don't think it's super common. And I think that it's such an important piece of any producer to take a step back, to not be in the business and understand what is happening to the business and where can you add value, right? So like if a producer needs to hire staff, that's something that you can help on. If they're not tapping into their database and they're too focused on referral partners, and referral partners aren't working and they see their business kind of change, what kind of activities can you do then, which we'll talk about now, holding us accountable, right? Like you do the coaching, you put an action plan together, you come to the next coaching, like I don't think anybody wants to let you down.
No, sometimes they'll ask to postpone it because they haven't completed all their stuff.
So let's talk a little bit about the nitty gritty. Like, you're sitting down with a brand new agent, let's call it doesn't matter the volume, like 10, 15, not really, right? So let's say a $25 million producer, you're coaching, what are we talking about?
Brand new, they're starting to build a book of business, or they already have a book of business.
They're coming, whatever, doesn't matter. Whatever you like, it doesn't matter.
It's two different strategies if they have a book of business or not, right?
Let's say they do.
Okay. So they're new in the role.
Sure.
Come over.
Yep.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. Let's say somebody from the bank came over.
Okay. So I always have to understand their business. So the first thing I do is I go through a full activity of understanding and breaking out their COIs, their center of influences. Okay. So center of influences, I break it down by A, B, and C. A is someone that's sending you 8 to 10 deals. B is someone that's sending you about 5 to 7 per year.
Yep.
C is someone that's sending you less than 5. I understand their book of business. I understand, is it coming more from referral sources or is it more from a database and your network? Once we dive into that, we then break out into, let me understand what you're doing in your community. What's your network look like? What's your database look like? And that can range from multiple things, whether it's the gym, whether it's sports, whether it's your religious practice, whether it's coaching your kids' sport, whether it's your kids' school. There's so many magnitudes and areas. Then we start breaking that down. And then from there, we really start talking about, okay, realtors at the moment are down. We understand that. So if someone has really heavily weighted on realtors, how are you going to make up the 30 to 40 to 50% loss that you used to get from your realtors? And then we start looking at what are their referral sources. So now we start really looking at financial planners, or we start looking at lawyers, we start looking at accountants, we start looking at different ways, and we set a clear goal of how many new center of influences do you want to onboard every month? And we kind of target a specific profession, and that's where we hold them accountable to. I don't want people saying I want 5 by next month. It's normally 1 to 2. They've identified someone in their mind they want to meet with. Then we look at their community and we identify, okay, how many deals do you can get from this? What are you going to do? Are you going to go to the school and sponsor something? Are you at coaching going to start talking about it more? Or at coaching of sports, let's talk about it, or to the parents. And we start divvying that up. So my point, and not to be long-winded, is we get very detailed, very specific on what their book of business is. We understand it. And then we start breaking out little pieces. And so if they're very strong on database, and let's say an agent comes over from the bank, they have 600 past clients, 400 past clients, 200 past clients. What can you commit to calling these past clients? And what are we talking about? Okay, so when you call someone, you got to be prepared to call them. You are not just calling and saying, hey, Max, producer, long time, how are you? And then once they say good, or who is this, and then you don't know what you're talking about. It's got to be very specific. So we start talking about, what do they feel comfortable with? Some people don't feel comfortable making calls, right? So now we start talking about, okay, do we create a newsletter? Do we get drip? You need to be present in front of your people, okay? And the last thing is really that I'm talking about them is, right now is your approach a hunter, right? We talk about that a lot. When people first start and they don't have a book of business, they're hunting. They're specifically doing an activity that's going to lead to getting a referral. Having lunch with a real estate agent, Am I getting any deals? Calling a real estate agent that's on the purchase and sale agreement saying, hey, I have your client. Are you going to get a deal? Are you reaching out to an accountant or to do a seminar or presentation? Are you getting deals directly from that? Or a scavenger. So scavenger means things are more falling on your lap. Those that have done a great job of booking a book of business, building a book of business, they have clients now that are calling them. They were telling their friends, Dan did such an amazing job. This is the guy. If you need a mortgage, you got to call him. Your phone's ringing off the hook. Right now, are more deals falling on your lap, or are you hunting? If you're doing a mix of both, your numbers are just going to blow up. So anyways, it's a lot of things, but anyways, understanding their book of business, talking about specific activities. We always leave with 4 to 5 actionable items that the next month we come back. Have you done this? Walk me through what you did. And if they haven't, they explain why, and then we either re-add it. And if people aren't taking it serious for 2, 3, 4 months and they're not finishing the action plan, we're just not coaching anymore.